you have script up there?
Uh-oh,
Yeah, it's my for an extra, but I did put one up there.
somebody steal my script?
No, that's your script right there, isn't it? Your script?
No.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh. Okay. Looked like minutes to me. Okay, sorry. Good morning. Today's meeting of the Neighborhood and Affordable Housing Advisory Board is called to order on November 18th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. Following adjournment of this meeting, I will call to order the meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Agendas of, agendas of today's meeting are on the wall at the entrance to the chambers. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure a complete record of the board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. I will ask the board members to introduce themselves and identify the fields they each represent. Starting from my left, Ms. Byers.
Linda Byers, city resident.
Good morning, Sharisa Doty, Affordable Housing.
Good morning, Frank Cornier, Construction.
Christine Bond, advocate for low-income individuals.
And I am the board chair, Robin Field. I represent the lending industry as it relates to affordable housing. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the board's October 14, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Is there anyone here to speak on items not on today's agenda? If so, please step to the podium and state your name and spell your last name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak on a subject that is not on today's agenda. Seeing no one come forward, there are no e-comments, so we will move to the next item. Item 4.1, recommend approval of a resolution of the City of Clearwater opting out of providing 80 to 120% AMI missing middle property tax exemption to developments that would otherwise qualify pursuant to the Live Local Act for calendar year 2026. Mr. Mayu will present this item.
Good morning, Dylan Mayu. I'm the housing manager. Live Local Act allows for rental properties with 71 units or more that provide housing to people earning between 80 and 120% of area median income, or AMI, in a metropolitan statistical area, or MSA, to be exempt from ad valorem property taxes. Beginning with the 2025 tax roll, local taxing authorities had the option to opt out of this exemption. The opt-out provision is available if the most current Schimberg Center for Housing Study annual report identifies a surplus of affordable and available rental units in the area. The most recent Schimberg report indicates that there is a surplus of available affordable units within the Tampa-St. Pete Clearwater MSA for households that meet the income requirements for the 80 to 120% of area median income. Based on this finding, the City of Clearwater is eligible to exercise the opt-out option. If this resolution is approved, the city will choose not to grant the exemption for eligible properties and will request that the Pinellas County property appraiser does not provide the exemption. This resolution will apply to all ad valorem property taxes levied by Pinellas County for property located within the City of Clearwater municipal boundaries. If adopted, the resolution will take effect on January 1st, 2026, and will expire January 1st, 2027. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
What's the purpose of this? Just to generate money, revenue?
So we find that the 80 to 120, we don't see that it would add any additional units. So, I mean, it would give a benefit to existing property owners, but we wouldn't add any additional units. And on top of that, the surplus was 2738, so it's 2,738 surplus units in that category in the Tampa St. Pete Clearwater MSA. So staff is essentially
Put a different way. What we're saying is that this will not incentivize the building of more affordable housing units, is essentially what we're saying.
Correct.
However, there are affordable housing units already existing in the city that are comparable with HUD's affordable range of rents. So I'm sure property owners would like to fill their taxpayers would like to fill those units, and if they are available, then they would be left empty, unfortunately.
You know, and to restate, it would incentivize the development. However, we feel that it would mainly provide, like that exemption would mainly benefit existing property owners. We wouldn't see that translate into more units or help any existing, you know, renters in the area. So I think it's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Right. So the Schimberg report shows that we have a surplus of units that are affordable in that range. So the need to incentivize more units in that range isn't there.
Exactly.
Because I think 120%, when you're at around 120%, that's about market rate.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is this just for new development or anybody who's already receiving this? Are they gonna still continue to get it, or it's
So-
just?
We opted out of this last year. This
Okay.
this exemption was provided by Live Local, so it's automatically provided. But we decided to opt out of this last year.
Same thing.
Same reasoning. Still a surplus last year. So we're just bringing this back this year to, you know, it's a new resolution to cover 26.
And have you had any developers saying, we need this?
Surprisingly, no.
And is this something we need to vote on this morning?
Yes.
This would be vote. This would be a recommendation to council, whatever your recommendation would be.
Is the incentive available to those that are building for under 50% AMI? Or is it just the one? Okay.
You said 150?
On
50%.
Oh, 50%. So it's automatic. Anything under 80% will be automatic.
Right.
We can't opt out of that exemption.
Gotcha.
So it's only the 80 to 120.
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Do we have any e-comments? Hearing no further public comment, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4.2, recommend City Council approval of the City of Clearwater's fiscal year 2024-25 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER. Mr. Mayu will present this item.
Good morning again. Dylan Mayu, I'm the housing manager. Today I'll walk you through the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER. This report provides a comprehensive overview of how we've used federal funds throughout fiscal year 24-25. And while it's a vital document, it's also a complex one to complete. It requires an enormous effort from our team, and this year came with the added hurdles of limited council meetings in December and also the government shutdown. With there only being one meeting in December, we had to meet this NAHAB meeting to get the CAPER, and it gave us about 2 weeks to complete it. That being said, we did enlist the assistance of Wade Trim this year to help complete the CAPER, and that really helped us meet the schedule, and that's why we're here today. We actually put the finishing touches on it yesterday, if you can believe it. So it was a mad dash and a photo finish, but we're here. Today is the first of two public hearings rather. After this meeting, there will be a 15-day public comment period that opens up before the council meeting. Your recommendation today will be presented to City Council during the December meeting, December 4th, where they'll approve the final report. Once approved, we'll upload the CAPER to HUD for final submission. That will be before December 31st. So first, what is the CAPER? The CAPER primarily pulls data from HUD's Integrated Disbursement and Information System, which tracks all of our financial and accomplishment data. And this is for federal funds only. And a couple of key points. The report tables, if you're looking at those tables, they reflect federal data exclusively. State and local funds aren't included in those tables. However, in the narrative sections, we do include the state and local data to give more of a complete picture of our work. And that way, the CAPER really becomes a snapshot of everything we've accomplished over the year. The tables also do reflect our matching funds, which are generally states, sometimes they're local funds, which are combined with federal funds to help maximize the impact of housing activity within the community. If you go to CR05, it should be the goals and outcomes section. This section compares our actual accomplishments to what we planned in the annual action plan. And here are a couple of nuances to keep in mind. The annual action plan, or the AAP, in the annual action plan, we are required to budget as though all of our home funds will be expended, even though we may not meet that goal in a given year. Unlike SHIP, which does not allow us to roll over funds, home funds do provide the flexibility to build balances across multiple years. This capability is essential for funding larger projects that require significant expenditure. By allowing home funds to build up, we can target them for significant initiatives and projects using a combination of federal, SHIP, and other local funds. Nonetheless, we must still plan and set goals as though all of our home funds will be expended. With that background, let's start exploring some of the details. So again, CR05, and again, bear in mind in the tables you're looking at, that's only the federal funds. And also, it's important to note, our programs were closed for about 3 months of the fiscal year due to the hurricane. We paused our programs to determine how much funding would be required for recovery. We reopened, I think, most of our programs on January 1st. Some of them trailed into later into January. So under goal 2, that's the housing goal. Combined with SHIP Home CDBG, we assisted 253 persons with housing-related services, and the breakdown is as follows. I'll kind of break down the difference between the federal and state funding as well. We constructed 1 rental unit. We rehabbed 1 existing rental unit. We constructed 2 homeowner units with the goal being 7. However, we closed an acquisition that added an additional 3 units with Indigo Apartments this year. That project was not closed out completely as far as the funding is concerned by the fiscal year, and so those will be reported on next year's CAPER. And it's also important to note that though we only restricted and can only claim the accomplishment of those 3 units, that project was 208 units, and our funding was essential in getting that deal done. We rehabbed 13 homeowner units, 2 with federal funds and 11 with SHIP. The goal there was 7. We provided 18 down payment assistance loans, 8 with home, 10 with SHIP, and the goal was 7. We assisted 42 households with tenant-based rental assistance, the goal being 60. And finally, the city provided funding for homeownership and counseling services for 176 households. A little further down are public facilities and services. We expended $1,043,672 in total for public services and public facilities. Facilities are going to be like rehabilitation to public facilities. So for facilities, we completed 4 projects last year. Those were rolled over from the previous year. And then 1 CDBG CV project. Again, those 5 rolled over from 23-24. Those projects included facilities improvements to SVDP's campus, the ARC's campus, and CNHS Head Start facility. And then the 2 CV projects were Directions for Living and our Club Childcare. Total expenditures of projects completed in fiscal year 24-25 include $226,737 in CDBG and $44,274 in CV. The CDBG CV is a COVID relief fund that was provided. We also started 4 facilities projects last year, but they were delayed and therefore rolled over, and so they'll be reported on next year's CAPER. The expenditures are, again, incomplete and will be reported next year. So for public services, we funded 2 with $94,048 in CDBG and 2 with $44,335 in CDBG CV. One of those are still open and will roll to next year. This includes, we funded with the CDBG funds, Metropolitan Ministries, their homeless program, West Care's Turning Point program, and with CV, we funded Directions for Living, their homeless program, and SVDP's St. Vincent de Paul's homeless program. It's important that we had 1 additional project or service that we planned to fund. It was SVDP South Pinellas. But unfortunately, weren't able to move forward with the program as requested. They had another funding source they were hoping to receive, and that wasn't received. So that one dropped out. For economic development, we provided $80,000 for assistance, for technical assistance services to Hispanic Business Initiative, that's Prospera, and We Care, which is now doing business as Upwards, to assist 42 micro businesses. That was the goal. Prospera did 30 of those, and Upwards did 12. CR 15, so it's going to be a few pages back. That's going to break down our resources and investments for the year. For CDBG, we had $2,617,994, and we expended $1,043,672. Bear in mind, again, some of the funding for Indigo was not counted, and some of those funds are conceptually budgeted for projects that are still in pre-development. Our home funds, we had $4,897,672. We expended $377,610. Again, multiple projects are underway and not accounted for in this expenditure total. With our conceptual budget, we have about $700,000 left of that $4.8 million. So we have, I want to say, around 7 to 8 projects in pre-development that, should they all go through and they all close, we'd only have about $700,000 of that budget left. Those projects will take multiple years in pre-development before going through. And then finally, SHIP, we had $1,898,317. We expended $1,169,975 of our SHIP balance. CR 25. That's going to break down our homelessness goals and accomplishments. One side note is the city does have a homeless initiative program where we provide $300,000 in general fund to 9 organizations. So that's separate from the CAPER, but it's worth mentioning. Our housing division does administer that program. As you can see, CDBG, we do a lot of work with our CDBG, homeless work with our CDBG funds. Our funding utilizing local nonprofit services went on to assist 2,056 people with homeless services. Under CR 35, other actions, this discusses our work with other funding programs. So again, SHIP, that's the State Housing Initiative Partnership Program administered by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. That provides affordable housing funding to local governments across Florida. And it's funded by a portion of dock stamp taxes paid on real estate transactions. And we utilize SHIP quite a bit in our department. We use it for home buyer education courses, home rehabilitation for low and moderate income homeowners, construction of affordable housing units, and disaster recovery for housing efforts. SHIP has easier guidelines to work around for those programs. That's why you see some of the bigger programs funded with our federal funds and some of our, our more residential programs funded with our SHIP program. Something to note about SHIP, majority of the SHIP funds are restricted to 80% AMI. However, there is a small bucket that can go to 80 to 120% AMI. We also utilize SHIP to fund our disaster recovery program. This is the first year that we've had to utilize that program. We actually put most of it together, last year after the storms, we assisted 8 households with disaster recovery from the storms in 2024 with SHIP funds exclusively. CR 40, this goes into our department's monitoring efforts. The city ensures compliance with federal rules and regulations for agreements administered under CDBG and home programs. This includes advising subrecipients on performance and conducting regular monitoring to assess compliance and address any issues. We do monitor annually. We have visits annually and more frequently if we determine a subrecipient is of higher risk. This approach ensures effective oversight, promotes accountability, and supports the success of our CDBG and home programs. It's important to note that no findings were found in 2024 during our monitoring process. And so that's the CAPER. We are asking for a recommendation to council to approve the submission of this report to HUD. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
So just a question about the number impacted of homeless individuals. I think you said 2,000 something. Is that taken from the reports in Neighborly, from monthly reports from the organizations?
Step up.
Dania Perez, Perez. So when the subrecipients submit the data to us, we do, when it's uploaded into Neighborly, we do, once we all confirm that everything's accurate, we go ahead and download it. We transfer the data from Neighborly into IDIS for the reporting.
And do you do a cross comparison of client IDs? I'm curious because we served over 2,500 people last year, so it seems like the number would be even higher than what
Well,
you're
it's
stating.
yours, I can only do for 24, 25. So the ones for your whole grant year, I can only include from October 1st through September.
Sure.
Not just that. So when we did the numbers, that's where it came out.
Yeah.
So the other ones you did, I believe, were the prior years. I could do a look real quick.
Oh, no, that's okay. It just seemed like the number would be higher with all the different organizations serving. That's all.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, from the homeless initiative, it's a lot higher. I think it's
Yeah.
closer to 20,000. This is just specifically for the CDBG funds. We only had 2 of those services that count in that number. So it's a little bit different. You know, the year prior, I think we had maybe closer to 7 or 8. We also had ARPA funds that we utilized for some of those services, and those are no longer, we no longer have a balance there. And so I think this year we have a few more services than we did last year. I think the idea was more funding. Last year was more funding for less services, or make it easier for our staff capacity.
Yes.
And then also we could get more done, you know, with those services. This year we took a little bit of a different route. I think we did pretty much an even split between, you know, everyone who made it through the evaluation process. And so it's a little bit less. We have more going out to a diverse group of services. So a little bit of a different strategy this year. We'll see which one works out better, and then we'll kind of redirect from there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Does anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? There are no e-comments. Hearing no further public comment, may I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything additional to report?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Do any board members have any final words before we adjourn?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
I just have to say, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with how much y'all accomplish, and this is impressive, the number and the dollars, and you're small but mighty. That's impressive.
Yes, it is.
This concludes our business for the day. Our next meeting will take place as a meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Really? And is scheduled for December 9th, 2025. No? That's what it says on here. Is there a NAHAB meeting on December 9th?
Oh, yes, there is an AHAC. I'm sorry, they said AHAC.
Well, so is there a NAHAB meeting on December 9th? There's no AHAC on December 9th.
Right, correct. No AHAC on December 9th.
Okay, so scratch that.
Yes.
So our next meeting of the NAHAB will be December 9th here in Chamber Councils at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned. meeting of the I thought you said we were. Okay. Take two. Good morning, everyone. Today's meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is called to order on this day, November 18th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. Agendas of today's meeting are at the entrance to the meeting room. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure a complete record of the committee's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. At this time, I would like to ask the board members to introduce themselves and state the fields you represent. I'm going to start from my right.
Christine Bond, advocate for low-income individuals.
Rick Vale, Affordable Housing.
Michelle Chenault, Community Development Board.
Frank Cornier, Construction.
Mike Menino, Clearwater City Council.
Sharissa Doty, Affordable Housing.
Linda Byer, City Resident.
And I'm Robin Fiel, your board chair, and I'm a residential lending as it affects affordable housing. This is the fourth and final meeting of this committee for 2025. I thought we had a great discussion at our last meeting. I know we have a lot to discuss today, so let's get right to the agenda. So the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the committee's meeting on October 18th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. The main item on today's agenda is to continue our discussion led by Amanda Warner of Wade Trim. Ms. Warner, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. All right, so welcome. So today is our fourth and final meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for 2025. So just to review, we have worked our way through the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee process, beginning with selection of the AHAC in August, and then through our meetings in September, October to workshop the recommendations of the Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report. Today, we're holding a public hearing to hopefully approve, the updated LHIS report. And then from this point forward, it will be taken to City Council on December 4th. If City Council approves the LHIS report on December 4th, then it will be transmitted to the state of Florida as a requirement of the SHIP program for the city. After that, if it's then accepted by the state, then it will be incorporated into the local housing assistance plan and will be again submitted in the spring of 2026 as part of the local housing assistance plan. So again, this is our fourth meeting. We're holding this as a public hearing today. And during our meetings that we had proceeding in September and October, we reviewed the values, principles, and visions of the Local Housing Incentive Strategies report. During those meetings, the committee revised one of the affordable housing values. So there were 4 affordable housing values. You can see them there on the screen, A, B, and C. Affordable housing value C was revised to read aspires to have housing that fits the city's residents, and this was done to incorporate not only the workforce but retired residents and other citizens of the city of Clearwater as well to make that more open. With that, the affordable housing principles stayed the same. There are 6 of them. So those were kept as were originally approved in the LHIS report. And then the affordable housing vision was kept as well. So the affordable housing vision for 2025 was that the city of Clearwater will incentivize the development of a diverse supply of housing that is safe, accessible, affordable, sustainable, and energy and cost efficient, that blends into the aesthetic character of all the city's neighborhoods, proximate to public amenities, employment opportunities, and which supports an inclusive community and the diverse needs of residents. So that was the final vision statement that was incorporated. All right, so the local housing incentive strategies, just as a reminder, and for those listening today that this is their first time listening to the meeting, the local housing incentive strategies are required by Florida statute as something that the committee is required to review in support of the city SHIP program, which is the State Initiatives Partnership Program. So for the incentive areas, there are 11 required by Florida statute. Those are listed on the left hand of the screen, and the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is established to review those 11 incentive areas, look at the city's processes and procedures related to those incentive areas, and decide whether any recommendations can be made for the city to utilize any of those incentives. On the right-hand side of the screen are 5 additional incentive areas, and those are ones that have been added over the years by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Those are not required by Florida statute, but are incentive areas that the city has chosen to pursue. So those are the 5 on the right hand there. So this year, in our preceding workshops, the committee identified several barriers and incentives for affordable housing that the city of Clearwater should review, and those are for the list of barriers. It would be lack of affordable housing supply generally, a lack of housing options for senior citizens specifically, the renter cost burden, high cost of rent and utilities, real estate taxes and insurance costs for homeownership. These are what we refer to as third-party barriers. Land use and zoning regulations, another barrier, and then 2 incentives were discussed previously this year, and those were accessory dwelling units as a incentive area and infill density as an incentive area. So those are the broad overarching barriers and incentives that were identified during the first few workshops that we had. So after that discussion, so over the last probably 2 AHAC meetings, the committee reviewed the recommendations of previous committees that were included in what would have been the 2024 Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report, and then made decisions about whether those recommendations should be modified or continued. So to summarize, so the committee reviewed the 11 incentive areas required by Florida statute, as well as the 5 incentive areas added by the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee over the years. And those totaled 34 recommendations from the previous committees that are actually documented in the Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report. Of those 34 recommendations, there are 2 incentive areas, I should say of the 11 incentive areas, there are 2 incentive areas that had no recommendation, and those were infrastructure capacity and modification of street requirements. And those were continued this year with no recommendation as well. So those are 2 incentive areas where the committee decided not to provide recommendations regarding those. However, the other 9 incentive areas, there were recommendations related to those, as well as the 5 optional incentive areas. So, and during that review, it was identified that many of the recommendations over the years have been implemented or they are currently in progress. So the 2025 committee continued 28 recommendations out of that 34 and modified 6 recommendations. So the 6 recommendations that were modified were recommendations 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, 9.2, 13.1, and 16.1. And I'll go over those today just to review the changes that were made. So looking at the 2025 LHIS report, and everyone should have received that as part of the agenda packet. It looks like this document here. So this is the latest version, and the latest version has a watermark that says public hearing on the back of it, so it'll help you identify which one is the current one. So in that report, recommendation 1.2, over our discussions over the last few months, 1.2 was to revise this to include single-family as well as multifamily affordable housing projects. So single-family was added to this recommendation. And then city staff also made some changes to this one to adjust the roles, the titles of the persons responsible for implementing this. So the recommendation as modified reads recommendation 1.2. The housing manager and development services division manager will continue to be the primary and secondary points of contact when submitting single-family and multifamily affordable housing projects. Through close coordination, these two staff positions will, and then it goes through a list of the actions that those staff positions will take to help encourage affordable housing. So that was the change to recommendation 1.2. Is everyone still comfortable with that modification today as we're continuing with the final report? Okay, all right. So the next modified recommendation was recommendation 1.3. This was a very minor modification to this one. So precedingly, there was a bullet point in here that required a list of potential mentors experienced in affordable housing development to be prepared. That list had not yet been prepared, so the timeline for that was adjusted from 2025 to 2026. So that was the minor modification to this one, recommendation 1.3. So 1.5 is the next modified recommendation. This recommendation was modified to add accessory dwelling units as a type of plan that could be submitted in advance as a plan on file. So the new recommendation 1.5 would read, encourage affordable housing developers of single-family homes and accessory dwelling units to submit frequently used building example plans for pre-screening by the building official to further expedite the staff permit review process. Is everybody okay? Okay. All right. The next modified recommendation was 9.2. This was revised because the senior executive team no longer carries out this process. So this is done interdepartmentally between the Economic Development and Housing Department and Planning. So basically, this was revised to say, continue the city's interdepartmental review process through which any new regulatory instrument created in the city, ordinances, regulations, et cetera, or by related state legislation can be evaluated for its effect on housing affordability. Okay, all right. And then the next modified recommendation was 13.1. The discussion at our last meeting on October 28th, there was discussion about accessibility features being incorporated into affordable housing projects. In discussion with city staff, this is currently not in the code and is not something that's being discussed currently. However, it could be considered in future iterations. So just to make it clear that section 3-920, point A, point 3, point C, point 1 through 3, that section of the code currently does not include this. These are aspirational, the bullet points that are under that. So the revision is to say, to continue to incentivize developers to address recommended design standards for affordable housing developments consistent with section 3-920 of the City of Clearwater Community Development Code. Other future criteria to be considered could include, but are not limited to, and then we've added provide accessibility features there. The other bullet points are similarly aspirational, provide direct and visual access to open space, play areas, night or outdoor illumination, et cetera, and things to be considered in future revisions. Okay, all right. Seeing no comments, I'll move on. So 16.1, partnerships. So this was to develop public and private partnerships for the provision of affordable housing. In one of our preceding meetings, the committee had discussed how persons basically obtain information about affordable housing in the city in terms of development. And there was a suggestion to add a bullet point under here directing persons to the City of Clearwater's website and specifically the affordable housing webpage. So now it reads, direct persons seeking information about affordable housing development in the City of Clearwater to the city's affordable housing webpage, and then provides that web address. So that was the change on that one.
I have one small question. If you could go back to 13.
Yes.
In your experience, does that, I know we talked about it last meeting, but does that language further restrict developers and builders from looking at design features for affordable housing? And the reason I'm saying that is because I remember last meeting discussing that there's only like 9 or 10 all year, if that. But I don't recall that we added the language that added play areas, nighttime outdoor illumination. I think some of that's already in the code, actually. I think that part is. landscape standards and buffers, those are kind of already in the code, so do we want to, for lack of a better word, scare builders and developers in reading that again? They already know well, this is my question. Is this restricting affordable housing development, or is this opening it up from where we were before?
Yeah, so I will say it's common with density bonuses to have some kind of criteria tied to them. So, you know, in order to obtain that density bonus for that specific, whatever that ends up being, that there is some kind of criteria that they would have to meet because there's something that they're basically complying with in order to get that additional density. However, for the pure incentive of affordable housing, obviously that is an incentive in and of itself. Right,
Okay.
correct.
That's-
That you would be giving that density in order to get affordable housing in return.
Okay.
There is criteria in there. Specifically, I don't have it called out in here, which ones are already in that density bonus criteria listing in the code. But this is, again, something that's more aspirational in terms of it could be considered in for future iterations of
Okay.
revisions to that density bonus, but it's not something that's being done right now. And
No.
I don't
If you
know,
read it,
Lauren, do you
that's-
have any other comments? No, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that if you read the sentence, it says, future criteria to be considered could include,
Yeah.
but are not
Yeah.
limited to. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's good. So we're not restricting, we're not trying to.
No, right, correct. So the way this is written, it's more of potential, and I think that the concept behind adding this as something that could be considered in the future is that when it would be considered, it would be weighed, is this a barrier or not, when
Okay.
that's revisited against all the other criteria that's already in that density bonus.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate you indulging me.
Yep, happy to answer. So, did anybody else have any other comments regarding this one before we move on? Okay. Okay. All right. So then we went over 16. So 16 was about adding a reference to the affordable housing website. So I'm going to pause there on 16 because that's our last recommendation of this set of recommendations. Does anybody have any other comments to discuss before we go into asking for approval to move forward to City Council? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just in an effort to share, I don't want to go back and redo anything, so please don't let me scare anybody. I am the elected member that sits on the AHAC workshop, so I just sat on 2 regional meetings since our last one, so I wanted to make sure I shared what's being discussed across the region. We're doing an amazing job. You know, there's very, very, very limited gaps on what we're discussing. I just wanted to highlight 3 things that are being pretty heavily discussed in other regions that we may not be. Number 1 was YIGBY, yes, in God's backyard as a tool. I don't know, and I don't recall us having any deeper discussions regarding that. The state identified as a tool that could open up upwards of 30,000+ parcels of land across the state for affordable housing. So maybe future discussions that can take place. We discussed 1.5 ADUs. ADUs was talked heavily across every region, understandably so. And the last one was, we discussed it in here as a barrier of senior housing being a future gap that they're noticing that continues to grow in all of our communities across the region. So those were just the 3 things I wanted to share before we move too far.
Thank you. Thank you.
Regarding the availability for using properties that are currently utilized for religious purposes, that was something, if I'm remembering correctly, it was opened up through the Live Local Act changes this year. And so that is something that we were evaluating in terms of the parcels and everything to bring forward to City Council at a later date
Gotcha.
as part of our updates for the changes for Live Local.
Yeah, we're very limited on property. I wasn't sure if that affected us at all, or if we identified some parcels. I'm sure we'll find out at some point.
Right. I mean, it's kind of strange the way it's written because it's
It is.
used by or adjacent to, if I remember correctly. And so it's also written as a may enable, so that we felt was a policy decision for City Council.
Well, yes, in God's backyard is an interesting title as well.
There are a lot of new acronyms related to housing these days.
Didn't that used to be called NIMBY or not in my backyard?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the take.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Heard that.
There's
Thank
some pretty interesting acronyms these days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A question, please. Under the land use for the city of Clearwater, you've got residential, commercial, industrial, and auto-related. Where does the religious fall within land use regulations? If, for example, you've got 59.3 residential, 2.1 industrial, 8.8 commercial, and 1.1 auto-related, so where would that fall within the code?
The Community Development Code has a use called places of worship, and those are permitted in institutionally zoned district,
Gotcha.
the institutional district. However, some maybe predated the 1999 code, many did, and it's possible that there are some places of worship that aren't necessarily zoned institutional.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to show and tell.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, all right, anything else before we move on? Okay. All right, so the next stop on our agenda today is basically for the committee to consider approval of the 2025 LHIS report. Again, that would be the full document that looks like this. The summary of recommendations are in the back. You'll see that the recommendations are discussed throughout the report, but Appendix E is the comprehensive summary of the final recommendations. So the next stop would be for the AHAC to consider approval and make, if the committee so desires, make a motion and vote on the approval to send this to City Council. The City Council meeting is on December 4th.
I think you said that we had a copy of that, but I don't have a copy. Do y'all have copies?
I don't have a copy.
So if it can just be emailed,
No, it's just changes.
yeah.
It's just changes.
Yeah, we got the changes.
If it can just be emailed to us. can
It
I-
should have, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it over to you all.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, just to summarize, the recommendations that changed from the previous version that you received were all the ones that we went over today on the slides. So,
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion if the board's comfortable moving forward to approve the 2025 LHIS report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
got it. Thank you, everyone. So, I just want to say, so next steps, we are going to the city council meeting on December 4th. That's at 6 p.m. That's a Thursday. This will be on the agenda that evening. And then once, if city council approves it at that meeting, then it will go to the state and get submitted to the state of Florida. And this is all in support of the city's State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program grant funding. So with that, I want to thank everyone for their time this year. It's been a delight working with you, and I look forward to next year's committee as well. So, all right, take care. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, is there anyone here to speak on items not on today's agenda? If so, please step to the podium, state your name, spell your last name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak on a subject that is not on today's agenda. Seeing no one come forward, there are no e-comments. I will now close the public comment period and ask if there are any final comments from committee members. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, just wanted to thank you for your leadership. You've done a wonderful job walking us through this and holding our hand, but thank you all, and thank you everyone for your service. It's very important to the community, and I appreciate it.
I also would like to thank everyone on the committee. I guess I've been here the longest, which scares me. But anyway, lastly, I'd like to ask Dylan Mayu if he has anything additional to report to the committee.
Just that I appreciate everyone being able to make it today and for your time. I know some of these meetings are a few hours and everyone's very busy, so I really do appreciate it. And other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, thank you to all my fellow board members, staff, and the public for your input in this process. I'm excited to see Clearwater progress its affordable housing inventory over the next year. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.